I'm going to do a short series of videos of retrospectives for the first retreats, Kapatari and Temple of the Way of Light, because I didn't do much filming there, but I did journal the Temple of the Way of Light, which was suggested to us. It was written pretty much in a shorthand form, because you have to write it the day after the ceremony, really, because if you've got another ceremony the next day, then you'll forget the one in the previous one. So I had written these down, and I've also transcribed them to emails to send to friends at the time. So I'm just going to read those out pretty much as they were written at the time. One video per ceremony, and there's 1 day of rest. So this one will be the first one of the bunch of. So there was 6 ceremonies and 1 day of rest. So there should be 7 emails altogether. So this is the first one. So day 1, good bunch of folk, 22 in total. Had a plant drink to act as an emetic for the water swallowing exercise, which was the same as Kapatari, up until vomiting and or diarrhea starts. Flower water dowsing in swimming clothes for energy cleanse. Steam bath with a pan of boiling water under a plastic seat covered in 3 blankets till the sweat starts. It's effective. Got rid of my headache and tiredness after it. The food is excellent. The buildings and tambos are first rate with a flush toilet. Shower block is by the Blanoka. The sharing circle was interesting. Everyone has spiritual, social, or emotional disconnection in common from various traumas. Some were tearful just mentioning their reasons for being here. I mentioned to Claude, guru and facilitator, re the exorcism at Kapatari. He said it is known to happen occasionally. Again, it shows the importance of vetting patients to screen out those with sufficiently bad affliction that could disrupt others in ceremony, like Jack did for me and Bianca at Kapatari. Again, under normal circumstances, he should never have been there. But in my case, I'm glad he was, in retrospect, of course, as I think that situation was supposed to happen for Bianca and I to experience what we did and become as close as we did in such an incredibly short space of time because of it. Brackets. This also may be more clear when you read about my experiences in ceremonies 5 and 6 later, or see the video, obviously. Before reading further, bear in mind that a perception in Aya may or may not be the truth or real, but a way of understanding what you need to heal. The quote, Mama gives you what you need, not what you want. So, ceremony 1, amazing. The power of 2 male and 2 female shamans singing different discordant icaros was awesome. It seemed nothing negative could survive in that environment. The Aya dosage was perfect for the first night, enough to trigger initial fear and anxiety. We were told we could ask Mama to ease the intensity if we felt overwhelmed, which worked. My bad stomach issues started again, but not as bad as at Kapatari. So this first ceremony at Temple of the Way of Light was actually my 4th overall. So, no major visions this time, as it's about initial cleansing for newcomers and to ease everyone in as gently as required. My intention before swallowing the Aya brew was to let Mama decide what is best for my healing. I'd had a list in order of preference of my illnesses originally. I followed a thought train after asking Mama to show me my first memory of my initial trauma. Surprisingly, not the death of my father at age 4, but being hit at age 10 for the first time when my stepfather came home and fought, probably drunk, with my mother. I got the impression later that my personal level of fear trauma compared to some people's didn't add up for the level it manifests in my intestines for anxiety and discomfort. This led to the idea that my trauma-soaked intestines with a damaged snake from the ceremony experiences at Kapatari, which I'd been shown as an animal, effectively, that was also sick, had been caused by black magic fired at me by my level 9 MPD sister, a self-confessed witch at times, since she was a teenager, though my other family always dismissed her claims, and me, as self-delusional lunacy due to the nonsensical nature of most lie-based delusional shit she used to come out with most of the time. But now it seemed definite, and that she had transferred the spirit of a half-dead, unborn, festering baby inside a spiritual womb to me. This idea came because the origin of the pain in my guts was right in the center where a woman's uterus would be, not in a specific part of my own body. I knew that my sister had had 3 abortions in her younger years before having 3 daughters later in life, so wondered if one of these abortions had been transferred by black magic to me in some part of her manipulative, hate-filled, scheming MPD past. You couldn't possibly imagine this story in a normal brain, not on ayahuasca, as a fiction in the worst horror movie script. It felt like the misplaced festering fetus made my whole intestines bloat and feel hard to the touch. I didn't get hot sweats the same time as I did at Capitari, just major discomfort, but with the occasional personal Icaro soothing. In a visionary sense later, I had a meeting with minor bad entities, nothing as bad as Jack's demon at Capitari, but realized it was usual attention-seeking and manipulation attempts, so dismissed them in impatience with my usual lack of fear of demonic forces, brackets, I have no idea where I get that spiritual strength from that got Bianca and I through Capitari, except it was based on an overwhelming, unselfish ability to protect others I care about, without any regard for my own safety. I told this spiritual abortion inside me that it had no business in me and would not be tolerated, but it was not my wish or place to kill it. But if it hadn't gone back to wherever it came from by the end of the ceremony, I'd have no choice but to destroy it completely with the aid of the shamans. By now, my stomach was as bloated as a pregnant woman's, which I mentally and physically displayed in the dark to the first female shaman who sat in front of me at my turn for a private Icaro. After her song, my stomach felt less painful. I went to the toilet block to puke or shit, purge something at least. I managed to puke something after putting my fingers down my throat, then went to lie down on my mat for a while. By the second sister's song, because there were 2 shamans that were sisters, the 2 females. By the second sister's song, the thing seemed totally removed, as if knowing my earlier threat was real, but I would only know for sure the next ceremony. For now, I felt much better and fell asleep a while before the end of the ceremony, which finished at 2 a.m. I managed to walk back to my tambo feeling very straight and quite good. I woke feeling good, like a major burden was lifted from me, but thought that I would only know if this thing was gone for sure in the next ceremony. If so, I could concentrate on my back pain and eczema. Things that happened to others were interesting, chatting the next day. Chris is a great older guy from Washington who became my main relationship for my time at the temple. He's had Aya a few times before me 10 years prior and totally believed my story was plausible, as he knew unquestioningly that the Capitari demonic possession was true. I've met a few people in the last months here, that's in Iquitos, that have also had experience of demons and bad entities in various ceremonies like San Pedro, which is the male equivalent of ayahuasca, or other hallucinogenics. Chris fainted to a bright white light in that first ceremony, and banged his head on the floor, but came to feeling fine. Poor young 25-year-old pretty Mary Martha had the strongest bawling of tears I've ever heard anyone release. God knows what trauma she has undergone to cry and scream to that extent. Brackets, because we found out later as people get to know each other. It is based on a mother and sister who have borderline personality disorder, so she has only ever received conditional love from that mother, so never been able to form intimate relationships with anyone. Asa, from Iceland, a lovely, caring person, experienced having the roots of her sadness pulled out of her ears. An observation I made to her the next day in discussion was that it was interesting that her voluntary role, along with her main IT job as an IT consultant in Iceland, is on the Red Cross helpline that involves listening to people's personal issues. So, but she didn't click with that. You get what you pay for at the temple. Anything less is not worth the risk, as Bianca and I found out the hard way at Capitari, where no vetting occurs. But I stress again, I believe that situation was supposed to happen, so I was given the opportunity to experience unconditional love in the ceremonial experience. But more on that in Ceremony 6. The temple program is well thought out, involves trauma integration techniques in partnership with Dr. Gabor Mate's psychological training program. and gives you all the tools you need at the right points in the 11-day program to deal with all the events you may experience while a patient at the temple. Because to me at the time it seemed like a spiritual hospital, so that's why I said patients or clients, whatever. The program is based on 14 years' experience of delivering eye healing for over 10,000 past patients. Say no more. Everyone should go here first to the boot camp for spiritual warriors. Kapatari level demons are nothing in comparison to what I encountered in my personal ceremonies in this place, all under the loving protection of Mama Raya, but more of those from ceremony 4 onward. So that's that. I'm not going to say any more about the Temple of the Way of Light because of things that happened personally for me with particular. Actually, I'm not going to mention it at all. Just leave it as it is. So that's the first one.